That's not something we're going to be able to fix. But if we can, if we're able to repair those injuries, we will. We'll do whatever it takes for as long as it takes, with that goal of getting the birds back into the wild. And of those patients that we can treat, we get about 80% of them back out into the world. And that's something we're very proud of. Now, some of those patients that cannot be returned to the wild may stay with us as ambassadors, like this little eastern screech owl did. And we will, as I said, continue to be able to provide education to the public. Now, John asked a question, in nature, how do they naturally file down their beaks? That's a great question. Their normal behaviors of eating will actually keep their beak filed down. Just ripping and tearing at the fur and the skin or the bones will help file that beak. But because his beak is crooked from being hit by that car after his jaw was broken, the little beak sits sideways. And because it doesn't rub along food in the way that it normally naturally would, it won't file down in the same way. And so we actually have to help maintain that. So that's a really great question. The little screech owls like this, these are quite common. You will find these little guys all across the United States. There's both eastern and western screech owls. Here in Colorado, we're really lucky in that our state actually can have both. And it just depends on what part of the state you're in, if you're going to see an eastern or a western. This little one is an eastern, and he may or may not look your direction. Unfortunately, with his vision problems, he doesn't see very well. As I said, he's busy checking out all the new stuff in our studio, but just keep watching. He may turn around and look your way again. But as he looks around the room, keep an eye on his head rotation. And keep looking as he moves his head around, and watch how it rotates. We're going to talk a little bit about that because it's one of the most fascinating features about owls. His coloration as an eastern screech owl, this beautiful reddish color, is not very common in Colorado. We just really don't see this color much. It's more prevalent further east of the Mississippi River, where there's a lot more red foliage for them to hide and blend into. Here in Colorado, our screech owls will be gray rather than red like this. But they'll be the same size, they'll be the same shape, they'll just have a different feather coloration. Now, screech owls, like all owls, a lot of people are familiar with a myth that owls can turn their heads all the way around. You heard that? Well, it is actually a myth. They cannot do a full head rotation of 360 degrees. So that would be starting from the front and going all the way around to the front. They can't do that. But what they can do, is he's actually demonstrating pretty well right now, is they can do about 270 degrees. So they can do about 3/4 of a circle. I'm going to see if I can get him to move his head just a little bit so you can see that, and also see his beautiful face and eyes. So as he comes around and looks into the camera, look directly at his eyes, because you may notice you can actually see some of the residual damage that had been done by being hit by that car. His pupils won't actually look exactly the same. Let me see if I can get him to come around and look your direction. Maybe? Can you look at everyone, sweetheart? No.
There has to be on your book.
A little bit.
Quick second. We have somebody who's not muted. If you could mute yourself, that'd be really lovely.
Well, we'll keep trying. The thing about wildlife and animals is you can't make them do things that they don't wish to do. You want to look this way? Maybe we can look this way. There we go. That's a little bit better. Give you a chance to see his face a little bit. You can see his really crooked offset beak there. The lower one just kind of poking out there. His beautiful face. If you look at his eyes, you might notice that those pupils are two very different shapes and sizes. And that's a residual effect from being hit by a car, damaging both of his eyes. Now, as I said, he can still see, but he can't see quite well enough to be able to hunt successfully and survive in the wild on his own. Now, that head rotation, though, that becomes very important when we start talking about hunting with owls. Let's see. Can I come back around? Well, the head rotation, as I mentioned, is about 270 degrees. So this would be equivalent to you starting facing forward, looking to your left shoulder, and then turning your head backwards and bringing it around almost completely to your right shoulder. And they can do this because they have a different number of vertebrae in their neck than people do. Mammals have a grand total of 7. And incidentally, this is one of my favoriteest facts, that is the exact same number as a giraffe. However, giraffes are simply larger. But those 7 vertebrae in your neck are what allow you to look left to right. But owls and raptors, all raptors, actually have 14. And that allows them to turn their head further around than humans can. Now there's a question here. Are they called screech owls because of the sound being different or distinct from other owls? That is an excellent question, and I apologize, I can't see your full name here on my chat, but this is a great question. And they are called screech owls, but not because of the sound that they make. It's remarkable. You would think, being called a screech owl, they would screech. Well, they actually don't. They make a very different sound, and I have an app here on my phone that can play that for you. So I'm going to play the sound of the eastern screech owl, and I just want you guys to listen. Did that come through to everybody? Let me know if that came through, and we'll try a different way if it didn't. But it doesn't sound like a screech at all. It actually sounds, and it's called a whinny because it sounds like the whinny of a horse. And there at the very end, you heard a trilling sort of sound. That's the very traditional Eastern screech owl sound. We don't hear that very often from him. He's actually a very quiet little bird. But what we do get to hear from him the most is that interesting kind of monotone trill. So they do make a variety of sounds, and absolutely none of them sound like a screech. So why exactly they were called screech owls, I honestly don't know. That could be something to Google and try to find out. I have not found an answer as to why they're called screech owls when they don't screech. But that's a great question. Claudia asked, how much does he weigh? He does not weigh hardly anything at all. He weighs in at roughly 1/4 pound. Owls and birds in general are very light. You have to be light in order to be able to fly. They have hollow bones and air sacs all throughout their bodies that really reduce the weight. And so just about 1/4 pound, or that would be equivalent to 4 AA batteries. If you want to try that out, pick up 4 AA batteries, and that's how much this little guy weighs. Maggie asks, what evolutionary function does being able to turn their heads so far around serve? It is, you are correct, Maggie, it is for hunting. So the head rotation is important because it works in conjunction with some other interesting features. Those gorgeous big eyes are actually fixed inside their head. They lack the muscles that you and I have to allow your eyes to rotate, move around inside your skull. So without moving your head, we have the ability to look up at the floor or up at the ceiling or down at the floor, side to side. Owls can't do that. Their eyes do not move. Instead, they move their heads. Why give up evolutionarily the ability to move your eyes? Well, that was to allow them to grow larger eyes. The eyes of an owl take up about 1/3 of their skull because the larger eyes let in more light and allow them to see better. And so for hunting, better vision, the ability to rotate their heads definitely plays a role. And it also helps them to avoid being preyed upon. Little owls like this can and will be hunted by other raptors. But if a little screech owl is sitting up inside an opening of a cottonwood tree, for example, which cottonwood trees are one of their preferred places here in Colorado to nest, they'll sit and they'll blend in to the bark of the cottonwood. But let's say something disturbs them from behind. They're concerned it might be a predator. Instead of turning their whole body to give away their position, just rotating the head helps them stay camouflaged while checking out for potential danger. So there's a lot of different reasons why that head rotation becomes so important. So Courtney asks, what's his name? Great question. He doesn't have a name because he's not a pet. And we at the Rocky Mountain Raptor program really believe that it's important to understand that there's a big difference between a pet and a wild animal. Pets live in our homes. They need us to take care of them. They're parts of our family. I have 2 dogs and I absolutely love my dogs, but I would never treat this owl the way I would my dogs because this is a wild animal who in his case, because of his disability, he does need us, but he doesn't have that kind of relationship. He doesn't like to be touched. He doesn't like to be interacted with. This is about as close as I ever get to him because this is respecting his wildness and his need for space. And so it's important to remember that with wild animals, they really do need their space. And so, Harry, that goes along with your question of can you snuggle him? I can't, and I don't. It's something that would be very frightening and very uncomfortable for him. I love all these questions. Keep them coming. Rose asks, how tall is he? This is a full-grown adult. He will never get any bigger. Here, we've got an example. Standard pen. He is less than, well, if we do full length here, he's about the length of a standard pen. So not very big. Don't let the little size fool you, though. These guys are ferocious despite the tiny little size. As a raptor, as a predatory carnivorous bird, they are incredibly fierce hunters. Divya asks, how fast can he fly? Well, this little individual with his vision issues, not as fast as his wild counterparts, of course, but eastern screech owls are not known for their speed as flyers. Owls are not very fast flyers. Other raptors like the peregrine falcon are significantly faster. Owls are slow flyers, preferring more to cruise along at a slower speed while they hunt or sit still on a branch while they hunt. And so he might travel at somewhere around about 50 miles per hour is about all he really likes to go. Emma asks, how do you file his beak? So for those of you who weren't here earlier, this little eastern screech owl is a permanently disabled bird after being hit in the face by a car that left him with vision damage and a crooked beak from a broken upper jaw. And so with that crooked beak, his normal activities that would file that beak down doesn't work quite in the same way. And so as his caretakers, we have to go in and actually file that beak down. And we literally use a fingernail file sometimes for that. Or we might also use a Dremel tool. It vibrates and he's not terribly fond of it, so we only do it when we need to, but we will actually Dremel down the sides of that beak and keep it from getting overgrown. Harry asks, what does he eat? Great question. Well, as a little owl, he's going to eat smaller prey. These eastern screech owls have a wide, varied diet. They live in mostly riparian habitats, so along rivers and creeks, maybe near a lake, so pretty broad, but they don't eat fish. Fish would simply be too large. They eat a wide variety of insects such as moths and butterflies, katydids, spiders. Some small owls might even eat tarantulas. Not here in the US, but in other parts of the world. But for this little eastern screech owl, his all-time favoriteest food is mice. And that's what we feed him here. They're not live mice since he's not able to hunt, but he does love to eat mice. And so screech owls are wonderful at helping to control mouse populations. And this is one of the things that makes raptors such an important part of our communities, is they are a lot of pest control, keeping populations of other animals in a nice, even balance and maintaining that ecosystem functioning the way that it should. And that's one of the reasons that this organization chose to take care of raptors, is because they play such a vital and important role in our environment. And we aim to ensure that those populations stay healthy, stay viable, and that they're around to help maintain our environment so we don't get overrun with pests and with diseases. And that's an important part of keeping our work going. Now, the Rocky Mountain Raptor Program is a nonprofit. We are entirely donation funded. I'm very grateful today to have Eaton Public Library host us. They did pay a fee that will go directly towards providing care, not only for this little owl, but for the 19 other ambassadors and 35 patients that we currently have in-house, providing care for all of these individuals to help us get as many of those as we can back out into the wilds. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the Rocky Mountain Raptor Program, feel free to visit our website. We'll get that up here in the chat. We'll put our website address up there for you. Feel free to go visit that and learn more. Bonnie, can you type that in for us? We also have a Facebook page. We have a Twitter account. So if you want to follow us and see what's going on when we're going to be doing other streams where you can come in and meet other ambassadors, we'd love to have you take those.
Oh no.
Maggie also asks, are most of your other ambassadors also owls? No, they're not. We only have 4 of our 20 ambassadors are owls. There's a big variety in our ambassadors. We care for all the different kinds of raptors that live in Colorado.
What?
Around about 30 species of raptors in the state.
Wait a second.
And so we have, let me see, we have
1 second, Jessica.
2 golden eagles and a variety of hawks and falcons and a vulture as well. Now, Jamie, just quick, I'll answer before we run out of time here. How far can he fly till he has to stop? Till he reaches the wall of his enclosure. Everyone, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming out. Still have 5 minutes? I'm sorry, I misread my clock here. Yes, how far can he fly? Now, this one here does live in an enclosure that is about 8 feet square. And so really he can fly through that space. Out in the wild, an eastern screech owl could fly as far as he wanted to. There really is no limit to it. He doesn't have any injury to his wings, so he is fully flight. Now the Raptor program, as I said, we have those
I have
20
to get on.
ambassadors. 1 bald eagle, 2 golden eagles. We have 3 red-tailed hawks, 3 Swainson's hawks, 2 great horned owls, and 1 each of, I'm thinking here and running through the map on my head, 1 each of a turkey vulture, an American kestrel, an eastern screech owl, a western screech owl, a merlin, a ferruginous hawk, a rough-legged hawk, a northern goshawk, and I believe that's everybody. So we have quite the variety of raptors. So as you visit the Rocky Mountain Raptor program at any of our events, we hope to be able to get into the public later on this summer, but of course that all depends. But if you join us for any other of the live streams, we'll meet different ambassadors every time we have one, and we'll talk about different features, different interesting aspects, and continue to answer your questions.
Let's turn it on for a little bit.
So Maggie asked, have we ever had a gyrfalcon? I wish. They're beautiful birds, but that is not one that we really have here in Colorado. And so we don't treat and care for that species. So Jamie asked, do we have an eagle? We have 3 eagles. We have a female bald eagle, a female golden eagle, and a male golden eagle. And we hope to be able to bring those out to you via live stream as well. So, all right, what other questions do you all have? What other curiosities about this little eastern screech owl that you all would like to know? As I said, screech owls are native to Colorado. They live in our communities. They're actually very tolerant of people, so you will find them in neighborhoods. They nest, see Armstrong asks, where do they nest? They're actually what's called a cavity nester, which means they nest inside the holes of a tree. So not a big open stick nest like we tend to think of. So you really don't see their nests. You rather just kind of see them coming and going from trees. But they, in the Fort Collins area, which is where the Rocky Mountain Raptor program is located, eastern screech owls are actually pretty common along the Spring Creek Trail. So if you're out taking a walk, you can certainly keep your eyes open there. Around dawn and dusk is when they're going to be out and about the most. They're tough to spot. Their camouflage is amazing. They're usually pretty quiet, so you may not hear them. But if you're patient, you do have a chance of seeing them. Jamie asks, how old is he? We don't actually know how old he is. He is at least, what was that, 2006, 14 years old. But he was already full grown when he was injured and rehabilitated. And once they reach adulthood, they're going to look the same every year after that. And so we don't know exactly how old he is. He is at least 14, which for a little owl like this is pretty ancient. We're going to see if we can get him to turn around and look at the camera again for you all, because I know we've had some new folks join us. Want to look at the camera, little man? Maybe. David asks, how large do they get? This that you're seeing here, this is full grown size. This little screech owl is about 7 to 8 inches from the tip of his tail to the top of his head. And this is full grown, weighing in at about 1/4 pound. How many eggs do they usually have in a clutch? 3 to 5. Depending on the quality of the food that's available. Can we expect them to hang out all summer? Yes, you can. These owls live in Colorado year round, and so you can see them any month, any season. All right. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure sharing the little eastern screech owl with all of you, and I look forward
Goodbye.
at another live stream soon. Bye, everybody.
All right, so if folks hang out, I'll go over some of our upcoming programs again really quick. I'm throwing the evaluation link down into the Oopsies. Throwing the evaluation link down into the chat again. So we do have some upcoming stuff. We have a program this afternoon if anybody would like to join us. And I would love to say thank you to the Rocky Mountain Raptor program and project. Please donate to them if you are interested in supporting the birds. They are fantastic. Round of applause for the Rocky Mountain Raptor project, which we would definitely have.